and go. You can even take a full size or above and still pay the mid-size price.
This is awesome.
Yes, it is, Business Pro. Yes, it is. Go national. Go like a pro.
Johnson & Johnson earnings beat estimates today. The world's biggest maker of healthcare products reported an 11% drop in quarterly profit to $3.5 billion. Olivia Stearns in the newsroom. What stands out for you in these results, Olivia?
Hi, Mark. Well, you know, it's interesting. When we think of Johnson & Johnson, we often think of the consumer products that we know and love and use, products such as Band-Aids and baby shampoo, baby powder. But what we see in the results is a company that today is much more focused on growing in both pharma and biotech. If you look at how the business actually breaks down, what you see is that medical devices and diagnostics are actually the biggest segment of their business. That includes things such as artificial hips. Prescription medicines, also a huge part, nearly as big as medical devices. Consumer, a smaller and shrinking slice of the pie for Johnson & Johnson. In the first quarter, over-the-counter sales rose by just 2%, led by products such as Tylenol and Motrin. Prescription medicines, though, and devices both rose by double digits. Last year's purchase of Synthes, a trauma device maker in particular, helped boost that segment. But even with drug sales surging, some analysts are warning Mark that Johnson & Johnson is too focused on developed economies. You know, less than 10% of sales come from the fast-growing markets in Asia and Africa. 40%, more than 40% of their sales still come from the U.S. You know, Mark, it's interesting that you hear mixed things about what impact Obamacare might actually have on Johnson & Johnson when you talk to analysts. You know, some say an extra 30 million Americans with access to health care. Well, that should mean more customers for their stents and their pills. Others, though, say that Johnson & Johnson is actually going to be pinched by new taxes, you know, such as the new tax on medical devices, and ultimately could be forced to swallow lower prices for their drugs and devices. Back to you.
Olivia Stearns. Olivia, thank you. Asian markets will be opening shortly. We'll take you to Hong Kong to see what's moving the futures markets when Bottom Line continues in just a moment.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. Get Fire Adapted now. Learn simple steps at fireadapted.org.
Every year, we pick a new city to explore.
But thanks to Hotwire, this year we got to take an extra trip because they get us ridiculously low prices on really nice hotels and car rentals.
So we hit Boston in the spring, even caught a game.
And with the money we saved, we took a trip to San Francisco.
You see, Hotwire checks the competition's rates every day, so they can guarantee their low prices.
So where to next?
How about there?
HOTWIRE, Hotwire.com.
Bloomberg Markets is the world's leading magazine in finance, covering the people, firms, and deals that move markets, featuring the industry players you want to know more about, giving you an insider's view of the world's most private firms, providing in-depth analysis on the business deals that happen behind closed doors, and covering emerging industries with insight and context. If you want the unique access and perspective that can only be found in Bloomberg Markets,
Jack and I are having the time of our lives. The kids are on their own, and now we're back in control of our time and the way we spend our money.
That's why Consumer Cellular is the perfect cell phone company for us. We get great service, and compared to our old plan, we're saving a ton every month.
Consumer Cellular is the wireless provider for people who want affordable service without the contracts.
Listen, I don't think I'm cheap. I only
want to pay for what I need.
So what do you pay a month for Consumer Cellular?
My bill can be as low as $10, $15 a month.
Wow. But we can change our plan anytime. So even those months we use it a lot, we're always getting the best price.
Try Consumer Cellular risk-free for 30 days with free activation, a $35 value, and free shipping. Consumer Cellular is the exclusive wireless provider for AARP members. Ask about your special discounts.
Call Consumer Cellular at 1-800-752-6353. Go online to consumercellulartv.com or visit a Sears store today. Help give your child the financial head start they deserve. Call now for your free information.
Welcome back to the second half hour of Bottom Line on Bloomberg Television. I'm Mark Crumpton. Thanks for staying with us. Let's check where the markets finished today's session as we hit the bottom of the hour here in New York. We saw all of the major indexes on the rise today. A strong report on housing and good quarterly earnings from several major companies helped the market rebound after its worst day of the year. Broader market S&P 500 was up 1.4% at 1574. The Dow Jones Industrial Average up over a full percent, 14,756. NASDAQ Composite Index was up 1.5% at 3264. Let's get a check of some of the top stories that we are following for you at this hour. The FBI confirms the bombs used in the Boston Marathon attacks on Monday appeared to have been made from ordinary kitchen pressure cookers. They were packed with metal, nails, and ball bearings. 3 people were killed, more than 170 others wounded. The FBI is asking the public for any information that might help in the investigation, including video and photos taken at the scene. Senate Democrats are delaying a vote on gun safety legislation. They're trying to gain the support of a small group of pro-gun lawmakers in their own party, along with about 10 Republicans. The bill would expand background checks for people trying to buy guns. Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid would not predict when a vote will take place. An American airline says its systems are back up and running tonight. That's after computer problems grounded all of American's U.S. planes for much of the day. 670 flights were canceled. Widespread delays are expected for all remaining flights today. It's time now for the Commodities Report. Matt Miller is back to give us some insight on today's session and a look ahead to tomorrow. Hey, Matt.
Hey there, Mark. Well, commodities were so important yesterday, causing a lot of the drops that we saw because the materials producers fell, and they were so important today as well. Along with equities, you saw a huge rebound in commodities, and nowhere was this more prevalent, stronger, more visible than in gold. We saw gold drop in the last 2 trading days, more than it had in the last 33 years. And as a result, today's rebound was equally interesting. Almost 2% were the gains that we saw in gold during the session today. You can see here in the evening, we see gold now falling 1% to 1373. But if you take a look over the last couple of days, you really see the drop. And there you see what we saw on the trading day today. Also, take a look at oil. We saw gains there as well, although they weren't as pronounced. You did see them everywhere, but WTI and Brent really across the board. We saw oil come up with most of the other commodities, but it wasn't as interesting as we saw in the grains session today. You saw, for example, corn rising the most that it has in 3 months. The concern with corn, as with the other commodities you see on your screen here, wheat and soybean futures, is that rain and wet, cold weather is going to delay the planting season. That's also a concern in a different way for sugar. The soft commodities also saw big gains today. Sugar, cocoa, coffee, all putting up gains as there was concern about rain there hurting the harvest. Sugar, for example, the harvest in Brazil, which is the biggest in the world, may be delayed because of the rains there. So bad weather, wet weather, and cold weather really affecting the commodity sector as a whole. Mark, back to you.
Matt Miller joining us with the Commodities Report. Matt, thank you. Asian markets will be opening shortly. Let's look at the biggest headlines in the region. Angie Lau joins us from Hong Kong with the details. Angie, good morning.
Good morning to you, Mark. Yeah, Nikkei 225 futures pointing to a positive open. China looking pretty good compared to the rest of the world. IMF trimming its growth outlook to 8% from 8.2%. That is still 8% growth in a global economy that the IMF predicts will expand 3.3% this year, less than the 3.5% it forecast in January. But, you know, with Europe being China's biggest trading partner here, the so-called 3-speed recovery really shows choppy winds ahead. So that's certainly something that we'll be discussing here in the Asian trading session. The IMF calling a 50% chance that the EU will slip into a recession, and that would really hit exporters in China hard, as well as exporters in the entire Asian region. And we also got that warning that Japan get its debt house in order, or it could have consequences in the medium term still. We're seeing the yen weaken this morning and sliding. So that's some of the things that we'll be talking about this morning.
Angie, commodities trading giant Glencore International, it finally got approval from Chinese regulators to take over mining company Xstrata. South Africa's antitrust regulators agreed to the merger in January and the EU in November. China's Ministry of Commerce dragged this on for more than a year. What more can you tell us about the deal and about China's concerns?
Sure. We're talking about Glencore, the biggest publicly traded commodity supplier in the world. And with this deal with Xstrata, it would create the 4th largest mining company. And that's exactly what had China concerned for the past 14 months as they pored over details and the implications of what a takeover of Xstrata would mean for China. But now it got the okay with conditions, of course. China giving its blessing if the new company sells a copper mine asset in Peru. China, as you know, is a guzzler of commodities as it builds its economy, as it builds its infrastructure domestically. Homes and apartments need all that piping, and that's why China consumes a lot of copper. Back to you.
Bloomberg's Angie Lau joining us from Hong Kong. Angie, thank you. Coming up, is the housing market in the United States heading for a healthy recovery? That story when Bottom Line continues in just a moment.
I'm open to compromise and I'm open to new ideas.
As our nation's leaders get back to work, one team cuts through the rhetoric to make Washington your business. This is Capital Gains, the only show on television positioned squarely at the intersection of K Street, Wall Street, and Main Street. Hosted by Peter Cook, Capital Gains puts Washington's heavy hitters to the test. This is not your typical Sunday talk show. This is Capital Gains. Sundays at noon and 5 p.m. Eastern on Bloomberg Television.
If you're disabled and unable to work, pay attention to the following message.
If you're one of the millions of Americans who are disabled and unable to work, you may be entitled to disability benefits through Social Security. Receiving benefits is your right if you suffer from a physical or mental disability. Whether you're applying for the first time or you've already been denied, we can help. You'll be matched up with an advocate who will evaluate your situation, handle your application, deal with Social Security for you, and handle all appeals. Best of all, there's no fee until you receive your benefits. To get started, call the number on your screen now. And keep in mind, there are a vast number of conditions that make you eligible for disability benefits and dozens of additions that you may not be aware of. So if you're disabled and unable to work, call the Citizens Disability Helpline today for a free, no-obligation consultation.
Call 1-800-284-9593. Call now.
A friend told me about Gazelle.com.
They paid me cash for my used iPhone.
Cash I used to get a new one.
I can't believe how simple it was.
I was surprised how much I got.
They even bought my broken iPhone.
And they paid the shipping too.
I got paid fast.
Couldn't have been easier.
So what's your iPhone worth?
What's your iPhone worth?
What's your iPhone worth?
Find out now at Gazelle.
That's Gazelle.com.
When you open up an Audible audiobook, it opens up your imagination. Enjoy a steamy romance while ironing the sheets. Discover an historic battle while battling the bulge at the gym. Visit audible.com/freebooks now to try 2 books absolutely free. Get caught up in a whodunit during a do-it-yourself project. Listen anytime, anywhere with the Audible mobile app. When you're out for a walk, learn how to climb the corporate ladder. Or bring a little magic to your minivan with a fantasy novel. With over 100,000 titles, Audible is an amazing experience that you can now try absolutely free. And just like our books, there's no binding. Our great listen guarantee lets you exchange a title you don't like for another. No questions asked. Visit audible.com/freebooks to download 2 books of your choice right now.
Hold on one second. The U.S. immigration system would undergo dramatic changes under a bipartisan Senate bill that puts a new focus on merit and employment potential. It also seeks to end illegal immigration once and for all by creating legal avenues for workers to come to the United States. New York Democrat Chuck Schumer and Arizona Republican John McCain met with President Obama at the White House today. After the meeting, Senator McCain had this to say about the possible legislation.
The president also agrees that this is the beginning of a process, not the end, that we will have hearings, that we will have amendments, we will have floor debates, but I'm confident that at the end of the day we will have a bill to the president's desk, because all major players that are involved in this issue are now on board.
The legislation would put the 11 million immigrants in the country illegally on a 13-year path to citizenship that would cost each $2,000 in fines, plus additional fees, and would begin only after steps have been taken to secure the border. March housing starts in the United States topped the 1 million mark. The Commerce Department reports new home construction last month climbed 7%. That's the highest level in almost 5 years. The surge was due to the construction of multi-family buildings. Shari Olefson is a South Florida real estate attorney and the author of Foreclosure Nation, and she joins me here in studio. Ms. Olefson, welcome to Bottom Line. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me, Mark.
Work on multi-family homes, such as apartment buildings, it jumped 31% in March. The annual rate, $417,000, the most since January of '06. What does the rebound in household formations tell you about the overall economy and the job market?
Well, you know, this is an interesting dichotomy, because on the one hand, we know new construction means jobs. New construction means tax dollars. Those are all good things. On the other hand, the nature of these units being primarily multifamily and rental is a little bit frightening, because we don't know what direction the average American family is taking. And it seems with construction numbers like this, combined with what we know some of the funds, Blackstone, for example, are doing with their Invitation Home subsidiary, that we are headed towards being a renter nation.
Well, by contrast, single-family home building fell 5% last month. The annual rate was $619,000. In February, that number was revised. It was $650,000. Does this mean that potential home buyers are still hesitant about taking the plunge?
Well, we've got a problem with, for a lot of folks who are hesitant to get in, but also don't forget that with all of the new banking rules and reforms, we're tightening up those lending standards somewhat, and that will become even more exacerbated a year out when new Dodd-Frank rules like the qualified residential mortgage rules start kicking in.
Speaking of those standards, the Fed Governor Elizabeth Duke, she addressed the American Bankers Association conference today. She said credit standards are still restrictive in the mortgage market. She said credit conditions, in her words, have not loosened in the least bit. Are banks and mortgage lenders still wary 4 and 5 years out after what happened?
You know, on the one hand, you've got folks who need to make loans to make a living. That's what they do for a living. On the other hand, you've got regulatory constraints that are sort of tying their hands. But I think a lot of folks are having a hard time qualifying. I mean, let's face it, employment and wages haven't seen much gain in the last few years. I mean, low expectations are sort of the new normal for people. So I think there still are some people sitting on the sidelines. We know new home buyers, first-time home buyer numbers are about where they've been. They haven't really been increasing. Still, a quarter of our sales are to investors.
Let's talk about regions. 3 of the 4 U.S. regions showed a gain in starts last month. The South led the increase. 10% increase. Why is that part of the country showing so much strength?
I'm not surprised to hear that. And I can tell you, in the South Florida market, what I'm hearing from folks on the ground is we are seeing a little bit more of a bubble again. The prices for prime properties are just going through the roof. There's almost a little bit of a frenzy going for folks who want to get into second homes, vacation homes.
You surprised by that?
Not really, but you know how soon we forget.
Yeah, very much so. What should people be doing to make sure that they can own their own home free and clear?
Well, I'm still a huge advocate of home ownership generally. And it may not be the best dollar-for-dollar investment, but essentially for average folks, Mark, it's a forced savings plan, and it sure beats renting. So, number one, in this economy, there's no reason why you can't take advantage of low interest rates and get a shorter amortization period, and let's strive to own those homes free and clear like we used to. It was a model that worked.
Well, at this point in the housing rebound, should potential home buyers, should they look to foreclosures or short sales?
It really depends on what area you're in, because some regions have more short sales available, others have more foreclosures. We know that about 6 million homeowners are actually in default. Another 10 million are still underwater. Those aren't necessarily showing up in the foreclosure numbers, but they may show up as short sales. That's a huge lot of inventory for folks who are looking.
We were just talking about how much it cost. probably the best time if you want to be a home buyer as opposed to a renter. Average rate on the 30-year fixed mortgage, it's at 3.43%, and the week ended April 11th. That was down from 3.54% in the prior period. Are interest rates behind this surge? Is this the Fed's housing rebound?
I think it really is, but here's the secret for most average Americans. Let's not take advantage of those low rates to buy more bigger houses. Let's take advantage of those low rates to buy houses that we can get paid off quickly.
How quickly?
Well, if you can get a 15-year amortization loan now and just make one extra payment a month, you can have that loan paid off in a matter of 10 years, which would be, imagine the country 10 years from now if more folks own their home free and clear.
I have about a minute left. What do you and your colleagues in real estate, either on the legal side or those who are actually selling homes, what are you thinking about how the housing market is going to look near term, say between now and the end of the year?
Well, we've seen huge appreciation in a lot of regions. Most folks are saying that we can expect another 5 to 10% in the next year, but over the long term, I would expect those values to stabilize because you know what, Mark? Wages are not going up, and the only way home prices can keep going up is if folks are earning enough to pay more and more.
Shari Olefson, she's a South Florida real estate attorney, author of Foreclosure Nation, joining us in studio. Please come back. We have a lot more to talk about.
Absolutely.
We didn't even get into Fannie and Freddie, but we'll save that for the next time.
That's a good one. Thanks, Mark.
Nice to meet you. Thank you for coming on. Still ahead, China's bird flu outbreak could be worse than thought. The worry now is sufferers who don't have any symptoms. After the break, a special report on the race to produce a vaccine.
If we could supply fresh water, this would be the perfect location for the new town.
Using their 3D experience platform, Dassault Systèmes proved Georges Maugin's dream of transporting icebergs could become reality. It takes a special kind of compass to explore the world's future possibilities. Dassault Systèmes. If we ask the right questions, we can change the world.
Endless pools are an incredible alternative to traditional pools, making it easy and inexpensive to swim at home. Call our toll-free number or visit our website. A free idea kit and DVD will be sent to your home so you can discover all the benefits of owning your own pool. Compared to traditional pools, endless pools are simple to install, easy to maintain, and economical to run. Our precision-engineered pools enable you to swim or exercise against a smooth current that adjusts to any speed and ability. Endless pools are perfect for year-round health and fitness, relaxation, and family fun. Our free idea kit and DVD will show you how easy it is for the whole family to enjoy a pool right in your backyard or home. An endless pool or an endless pool swim spa can become a showplace for your home. Call our toll-free number or visit the website to find out more about endless pools. The free idea kit will show you just how easy it is to be able to swim at home.
No matter what, people can count on me to get the job done. So when my prostate cancer returned, my doctor told me that this time can be different with Provenge, a personalized treatment that lets me count on my own body to fight back.
Provenge is clinically proven to help extend life in certain men with advanced prostate cancer by taking your own blood cells and reprogramming them to jumpstart your immune system so it can attack your prostate cancer. Provenge can cause serious reactions, including those resulting from the infusion and stroke. Severe but infrequent infusion reactions include chills, fever, fatigue, weakness, breathing difficulties like shortness of breath, decreased oxygen and wheezing, dizziness, headache, high blood pressure, muscle ache, nausea, and vomiting. Tell your doctor about all of your medical problems, including heart problems, lung problems, or history of stroke. Call 1-800-464-8596 for more information. Talk to your doctor and find out if the time is right for Provenge. Provenge, helping you help yourself.
First, Bloomberg.
You are looking at a live shot of Garvey Park in Dorchester, Massachusetts. A memorial service is underway for the victims of Monday's bombings. At the finish line at the Boston Marathon, among those being honored tonight, memorialized tonight, 8-year-old Martin Richard. He was the youngest of the 3 people killed. He was also his family from that Dorchester neighborhood. As bird flu spreads in China, new fears are now arising. A confirmed case of the flu in a child who showed no symptoms of infection stoked concern that the flu may have spread even wider than initially thought. Our China correspondent Stephen Engel reports from Beijing.
Beijing authorities have found a second child infected with the H7N9 strain of bird flu, but unlike this 7-year-old infected girl, the new case involves a 4-year-old boy who's showing no symptoms. It suggests more people may be catching this virus than reported and further muddies the outlook for containing its spread.
Panic is something that is paralyzing and is not conducive. And at this moment, I don't think there's any room for panic. There is room for education and for preparation.
NASDAQ-listed Sinovac Biotech of Beijing is preparing to make immunizations against the new virus, but is holding off production of a vaccine until it receives orders from the state. It has, however, notified its suppliers that it may need to order more fertilized chicken eggs to produce an H7N9 vaccine.
I see that the risk of this becoming a pandemic is increasing. This is a much more serious outbreak than H5N1 bird flu, which from 2003 until now only infected 45 people in the whole of China. That's a big difference. In just 1 to 2 months, there have been more than 60 cases of this new bird flu just in the Yangtze River area alone. The strength of its infectiousness is very different.
Currently, Sinovac says the earliest they can get a vaccine to mass production would be late July. That's why they're urging the World Health Organization to give them strains of the virus sooner.
From the point of view of the public, we shouldn't panic. But for the WHO and laboratories like us, we should speed things up as if there is a pandemic right now.
The World Health Organization says it is taking this outbreak very seriously, yet maintains there still is no evidence of sustained human-to-human transmission.
This case occurring in Beijing doesn't change our risk assessment overall of the situation.
The good sign, they have done the reverse engineering of its genomics, and we know that this is sensitive to the antiviral medications. There is the Tamiflu, that if you take it within the first 48 hours, then all the research so far is showing that it is very effective.
Virologists say even if this outbreak is contained, the virus could go dormant and reappear even stronger in the fall. State media reports the Beijing government has ordered 2 million doses of Tamiflu be stockpiled just in case. Stephen Engel, Bloomberg, Beijing.
When we return, we'll have more on our coverage of the Boston Marathon bombing as we look ahead to tomorrow. Bottom Line on Bloomberg Television returns in just a moment.
It's as simple as this. At BNY Mellon, our business is investments. Managing them, moving them, making them work. We oversee 20% of the world's financial assets, and that gives us scale and insight no one else has. Investment management combined with investment servicing, bringing the power of investments to people's lives. Invested in the world. BNY Mellon.
We're at a place in our lives where we need investment income. That's why we invest in tax-free municipal bonds.
We love the income they provide us, income that's federally tax-free. And at this point in our lives, tax-free income is exactly what we need.
Tax-free municipal bonds can serve as the cornerstone for a conservative portfolio. They offer income that's tax-free. Hennion & Walsh is a leading expert in tax-free municipal bonds committed to finding you the best bonds to meet your investment goals. We'll even send you our informative bond guide absolutely free if you call right now. 1-800-895-7895. If you have at least $10,000 to invest, consider municipal bonds. They provide income that's federally tax-free. Take charge of your investments today. Call now to receive your free copy of our informative bond guide. It's free, so call now. 1-800-895-7895. That's 1-800-895-7895.
What do you mean homeowners insurance doesn't cover floods?
A few inches of water caused all this?
But I don't even live near the water.
What you don't know about flood insurance may shock you, including the fact that a preferred risk policy starts as low as $129 a year. For an agent, call 1-877-891-0115.
As glamorous as the Riviera, as exotic as Fiji, as fashionable as Milan, as chic as South Beach. But it's even better because it's in Jamaica and it's all included. The new Sandals Grand Riviera, with more quality inclusions than any other resorts on the planet and with up to 65% off, it's the Caribbean's best value. Call 1-800-SANDALS.
The world of pro football and broadcasting lost a giant today. Pat Summerall has died. He enjoyed a 10-year career as a kicker in the National Football League and was a broadcaster for more than 40 years covering the NFL for CBS and Fox. Summerall played 10 NFL seasons with the Chicago Cardinals and the New York Giants. He started broadcasting NFL games for CBS in 1964. He also covered the PGA Tour and professional tennis. Pat Summerall was 82 years old. Let's get you the bottom line on what's happening tomorrow. For that, let's head to the newsroom and Olivia Stearns. Olivia?
Thanks, Mark. Well, the investigation continues for a suspect and a motive in the Boston bombings. Authorities are now looking into whether the explosions were in fact the work of a homegrown radical. New evidence suggests the bombs were built inside metal pressure cookers, and analysts say the crude method indicates it's more likely to be an act of domestic terrorism. Speaking in his second televised statement in just 18 hours, President Obama said authorities will find those responsible for the attack, but said they have no sense of the motive yet. Also on Capitol Hill tomorrow, Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel testifies on the department's proposed budget before the Senate Armed Services Committee. Also in D.C., the IMF releases its semi-annual Global Financial Stability Report, and the Federal Reserve releases its Beige Book report, which includes, as you know, a summary and analysis of economic conditions in 12 U.S. districts. Up here on Wall Street, earnings season, of course, continues. Bank of America, American Express, and eBay all set to post first quarter results. And finally, over in London, former UK Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher's funeral will be held at St. Paul's Cathedral. Queen Elizabeth will attend. It's the first time she's been present for the funeral of a former Prime Minister since Winston Churchill's back in 1965. Margaret Thatcher's funeral will be held with full military honors. Mark?
Olivia, thank you so much. Breaking news right now. We're learning from the Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid that the Senate will vote on a gun background check bill tomorrow. Senator Reid says the background check measure requires a 60-vote majority. He says 9 amendments are needed to receive those votes. Get the latest headlines at the top of the hour on Bloomberg Radio and streaming on your iPad and on Bloomberg.com. That does it for this edition of Bottom Line on Bloomberg Television. I'm Mark Crumpton. I'll see you tomorrow night.
I'm open to compromise, and I'm open to new ideas.
As our nation's leaders get back to work, one team cuts through the rhetoric to make Washington your business. This is Capital Gains, the only show on television positioned squarely at the intersection of K Street, Wall Street, and Main Street. Hosted by Peter Cook, Capital Gains puts Washington's heavy hitters to the test. This is not your typical Sunday talk show. This is Capital Gains. Sundays at noon and 5 p.m. Eastern on Bloomberg Television.
Around the clock, around the world, Bloomberg keeps you connected. On television, online, on the radio, and on mobile.
How to manage BYOD. Bloomberg Link presents the Enterprise Technology Summit. Top tech decision makers gather in New York to discuss the cloud, mobility, and disaster recovery. Sign up today at BloombergLink.com.
We now offer phone service as low as $1.70 a month with Magic Jack Plus. That's $19.95 a year. No computer needed. Nothing changes. And now keep your old phone.
Connie and I love having cell phones because of the freedom they give us. So why would we want to be tied down to a contract?
Life's too short.
And Consumer Cellular gives us control over how and when we use them and what we pay.
And compared to our old plan, we're saving a ton of money every month.
So what really sold us on Consumer Cellular was that they're the exclusive wireless provider for AARP members.
AARP? That's a huge deal.
Was it complicated to switch? Not a bit. They make it super simple. You can even keep your number. Oh, that's nice.
Consumer Cellular, affordable service without the contracts. Try Consumer Cellular risk-free for 30 days with free activation, a $35 value, and free shipping. Or just pick it up at a Sears store. Plans start as low as $10 a month.
Call Consumer Cellular at 1-800-245-7767. Go to consumercellulartv.com or visit a Sears store today.
With it next.
You know, collaboration has been a common theme of Get Satisfaction since day one. To have true collaboration, people have to authentically connect with each other. We believe that good relationships make good business, and from that, trust gets created. That's the essence of everything we do. From a global standpoint, it's easy to hide behind an email or a telephone. So when you have that opportunity to go face-to-face through an easy-to-use collaboration tool like GoToMeeting, it completely changes the dynamic. And that's the dynamic that we were born around, the human element. With GoToMeeting, it's so easy to get work done faster and get that reaction real time. We could not take on this next stage of growth without a tool as powerful as GoToMeeting.
Visit GoToMeeting.com today and try it free.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. Get Fire Adapted now. Learn simple steps at fireadapted.org.
Stations come over to Mission A for our final go. This is for real this time. Step 7.212. Verify and lock.
Command is locked.
5 seconds.
3, 2, 1.
Standing by for capture.
The most innovative software on the planet
Dragon is captured.
is connecting today's leading companies to places beyond it. Siemens answers.
When will the Bank of Canada meet inflation goals? Bloomberg Link presents the Canada Economic Summit. Business leaders and investors convene in Toronto to examine the current state of the Canadian economy. Sign up today at bloomberglink.com.
If we could supply fresh water, this would be the perfect location for the new town.
Using their 3D experience platform, Dassault Systèmes proved Georges Maugin's dream of transporting icebergs could become reality. It takes a special kind of compass to explore the world's future possibilities. Dassault Systèmes. If we ask the right questions, we can change the world.
From our studios in New York City, this is Charlie Rose.
Today is the birthday of Kim Il-sung, the founder of North Korea and the Kim dynasty. Some had feared that the day would be marked by missile tests. Although that did not happen, tensions remain high. John Kerry has visited the region on his first foreign trip as Secretary of State. The six-leg tour has taken him to Israel, the West Bank, Turkey, South Korea, China, and Japan. The trip comes at a time when the limits of American military power are under scrutiny against a backdrop of budget cuts at home. On Sunday, the Secretary of State spoke from Tokyo, seeking to reassure American allies and bring North Korea to the negotiating table.
We are confident that we can address the concerns with respect to their security and find ways, together with China and the Republic of Korea and Japan and Russia and the members of the six-party talks, we can find a way to resolve these differences at a negotiating table. I hope they will hear that, and I hope they will respond to that. And any other choice by them will simply further isolate them in the world and make it clear to the rest of the world where the problem really lies.
Joining me from Washington is Michelle Flournoy. She served as Undersecretary of Defense for Policy from 2009 to 2012. I am pleased to have her here this evening to talk about North Korea, the United States, China, and what in the world is going on. Are you surprised by the conduct of the North Koreans?
Not really, in the sense that, Charlie, we have seen almost after every leadership transition in North Korea a series of provocations that the new leader has used to try to consolidate their power domestically in terms of winning the support of the military, winning the support of the party. And so I think there was some expectations that as Kim Jong-un came into power, he would, in fact, go through some cycle of provocations. I think what's been surprising is the pace and the level of bellicosity, which is a little different than in the past.
And are you surprised? Many people looking at Founders Day in anticipation there might be some kind of effort by him to use this day, but it did not happen. I mean, is that any indication that perhaps he realizes, and perhaps with pressure from China, that the bellicosity, your words, has gotten out of hand?
We can certainly hope. I think we don't know yet, and the coming days will tell. The pace of this has been such that almost every few days, some new outrageous statement, some new action has taken place. I think there's still some concern that the North might be preparing a ballistic missile test of a medium-range missile, so we'll keep an eye on that.